Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. Doing a video about Boba Fett because I haven't talked about him yet on my channel. And most specifically, I'm actually talking about his ship, Slave One, over there. That's the toy from Kenner, the original. And it's an amazing looking toy. I mean, it's great. They really, by the time they were doing the Empire Strikes Back stuff, Kenner really were knocking it out of the park. But in addition to the Slave One, I also wanted to talk about my Boba Fett action figure here. Now, anybody who's really into the collecting of these is going to notice right away I've broken the rule about how these figures, I guess, are supposed to be well maintained and preserved. You'll notice mine has white gloves, and the reason for that is when the figure originally came out, it seemed like Kenner may have had their hands on multiple different types of costume suggestions from Lucasfilm, and they made a Boba Fett that was missing a lot of stuff that he ended up with on film. Now, there's different versions of Boba Fett with these white gloves, and also I remember a poster of him where he did not have these white gloves, and I think there were a few variations of what was happening with him until it actually made it on film. Now, my friend and I, in this time when the movie came out, were into like painting little army figures and that kind of stuff, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to correct my Boba Fett here so that he actually matches what you saw on film. I'm going to give him white gloves, and I think I also painted the little details on his little armband there. And I'm hoping this is going to come out. I don't know if my camera's really good at finding the extra detail here, but do you see his, can we get a focus? No, not. Oh, there we go. Yeah, can you see his, like, the little armature on his helmet, which obviously they couldn't have something just sticking up because it would break, so they kind of pulled it forward and they molded it as part of the helmet toy, or toy on the helmet on the toy. Yeah, you'll see that originally that was all just the same gray color of the action figure, so what we did was we painted him to be the proper green color, and I actually painted his, well, I painted his little V-shaped visor, and I also painted the little armature. So this is not the way Boba Fett the toy was originally released. But I think we kind of improved him. I mean, I like what we ended up doing. I say we because it was my friend who did the painting of the little army man. He gave me suggestions. He showed me how to use a very thin paintbrush. Mine is the type of Boba Fett where you cannot launch the rocket. That's, you know, this is a stock garden variety Kenner toy here. There's nothing rare or valuable about this guy. But anyway, yeah, with my friend's suggestions, we actually matched my action figure to look a little bit more like what you saw on film. And that's actually what I was first showing you. Let me just swap here. Was this thing here is actually just a little candy candy dispenser. It was like Tic Tacs. You would sort of rotate. Where's the hole? There's like a little opening where, there you go, and then the candy you just knock out a couple little Tic Tac things, and there's the Empire Strikes Back logo. Don't know if you can make it out in the light there. It was all green, and my friend recommended, well, why don't you paint that just to get yourself familiar with the paintbrushes. I think I did an okay job, actually. I added the silver, the red, the black. So yeah, with that, I then moved on to the action figure. So I don't know. I mean, maybe did I wreck this? Is this destroyed now? I don't know what a Boba Fett goes for. Oh, he's now in focus. I don't know what a Boba Fett goes for nowadays, but I kind of like how mine looks proper to the way he is in the film. So, I don't know. I'll ask that to any Star Wars collectors out there. Did I ruin this guy? Or are they still somewhat not very expensive, and maybe I should just pick up a proper valued one? I don't know. This one is actually, he's got a lot of memories. He went on a trip with me that I'm going to talk about in the future, and I was very happy that I got a Boba Fett modified with my own hands to be more like what we saw in the movie. Now, let me set Boba Fett aside here, because I want to actually talk about his ship. And I hope the focus works out here. Now, let me show you Slave One, because this is a really nice toy. They were knocking it out of the park by the time they made this thing. I've already done videos about the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter and various others of the ships of the line. I never really talked about Boba Fett, nor his Slave One here, but it's really, really a gorgeous toy. I mean, just the level of details. I don't know if you can make these out, but you got all these panels. Even the stickers that are on here have got like neat little details on them that I don't think were absolutely necessary. You know, this stuff on the nose here has got like little highlights. Really, really super, and a huge toy. Not big enough, as in a moment I will try and put Boba Fett inside. Well, you can kind of see he's, compared to what it's like in the film, he's supposed to be able to walk up that ramp. So he's not going to do that. It's not quite to scale, but a lot of the toys of the era were not, and they've actually done a really good job with this thing. Now, what I really like, I'll open up and I'll put Boba Fett inside in a second, but what I really like are, first of all, when the ship is in sort of landing mode, the panels that were perpendicular to the ground would stay that way. As you pick the toy up, they do actually rotate of their own accord. You see that? I didn't even touch them there. They just realign themselves into flight mode, which is really, really cool. There is actually a convenient little handle here, so you can hold it and fly it around and, you know, do your little rocket sound effects with your mouth so that you can pretend that he's flying. And the other neat thing is there's actually a little trigger in here. You would think that makes sound effects. No, it doesn't. All that does is lock these things in place. So if I hold that and I then rotate the Slave One, you'll see the panels stay in the same place. If I let go of the trigger, there you go. So that was just a neat little thing. Got a little knob or a slider here. I'll show you that in a second. But yeah, like even on the back, the level of detail, like look at all of that stuff. You know, they really did a nice job with Slave One. Interesting to note, Slave One is actually based on a lamp, a street lamp that was, I think it was in the LucasArts or Lucasfilm. It was in their neighborhood, or maybe it was used on the grounds of Lucasfilm. I'm not sure, but anyway, this is what the lamp looks like. And here's even some documentation that proves, yeah, that was the lamp that was the basis for this vehicle. And looking now at Slave One, you can totally see it. Like, it is that lampshade. So, really, really cool. I quite like that. Now, why is there this big gaping square here with a little notch? Well, that's actually how Boba Fett can get inside his ship. If we pull that, this whole back section actually comes off. You can see there. And you can get inside the vehicle. And in fact, what's rattling around inside there is a little Han and carbonite. So that's kind of cool. That came with the toy. And this thing here actually extends down to make like a little ramp. So in theory, you're supposed to be able to take Boba Fett, have him, I guess he could be getting the guards to push the frozen Han Solo up into the Slave One and drop it down, and Boba Fett can play around inside there. But again, compared to what that looks like in the movie, this is really not to scale. Final note, let me just close that back up. There we go. Now if I rotate that little lever, it actually brings the control chair down. I don't know if you can make that out. There's like a little white belt for Boba Fett there, so if I can just snap him into place, kind of like he's putting his seatbelt on. There he is. Can you make him out inside there? Yeah, kind of. And then if I rotate this back up, yeah, now he's in the control seat. And as per in the film, he flew around Slave One like that a lot. Can you make him out there? I hope so. Yeah, having seen Slave One in Battlefront when I was running around, I actually walked right around the vehicle and even jumped up on here. And I can tell you, to scale with the figure, yeah, this isn't quite right, but whatever. It was, for its time, it's a pretty impressive toy. And I think Kenner should really be commended for getting something that's even remotely close to Slave One available for kids in that period. Right, so there is Slave One and Boba Fett for all the Boba Fett fans out there. Hope you enjoyed that. And I guess my big question is, what do you think? Did I wreck Boba Fett by painting him? Or should I just own the fact that this is my Boba Fett that I have customized to my liking? I think that's going to be the way I will decide on that one. Yeah, I like my Boba Fett just as he is. All right, until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.